Hi everyone. In our last video, we deployed a web application in a multi-container configuration on a user-defined network. The process wasn't too difficult, but it could be streamlined. Fortunately, Docker includes tools for simplifying multi-container deployments. Docker Compose is a tool for specifying multi-container deployment details in one easy-to-run file. When we set up our multi-container deployment of MediaWiki using MySQL, we needed to manually configure a number of options: a user-defined network, volumes, ports, passwords, and so on. It's not hard to imagine that we might need to go through this configuration process repeatedly with the same options. Under such circumstances, we can use Docker Compose. Docker Compose files are written in YAML, which stands for yet another markup language, or YAML ain't markup language, depending on who you ask. A MediaWiki implementation like the one we deployed last lesson might look something like what you see on the screen. Many of the specifications you see here will look familiar. We're creating two services, the MediaWiki app and the MySQL database. For the app, we're publishing port 80 to the local machine's port 8000. For the database, we're specifying the in-container directory for persistent data. But okay, what do we mean by service? This is an abstraction that Docker uses to organize large deployments. The service definition is essentially an image of a container configured to work in the context of a large deployment. In a complex deployment, specific pieces of functionality are sometimes broken down into discrete modules that can communicate with one another through web interfaces and can be managed by small teams. This approach is called a microservices architecture, and our simple two-container deployment gives us a highly simplified way to understand the architectural pattern. In this case, the application is broken down into containerized components with clearly defined jobs, the application and the database. The application logic could be further decomposed into modules handling the specific logic for, say, authenticating accounts, editing posts, serving the site, and so on. But for now, we're concerned with composition, not decomposition. So go ahead and copy what you see here into a file called wiki.yml and save it in a project folder on your host machine. You can find this code linked in the description as well. Take note, this pattern of organizing multi-container deployments in YAML files will be a recurrent feature in your journey through cloud-native systems. If you're starting fresh, this could be your first time encountering a YAML file, but it certainly won't be your last. Make sure you don't have any containers from previous lessons running. Then, in your terminal, run Docker Compose. Make sure you don't forget the hyphen, an F flag, wiki.yaml, and then up. The F argument points to a custom file name, in this case, wiki.yaml. Otherwise, Docker Compose expects the YAML file to be called dockercompose.yaml, which could get confusing if you had a bunch of files with that same name on the same system. This command is going to start the process in attached mode, so you'll see continuous logs in your terminal tab. Now, once everything's done, when you navigate to localhost 8000, you'll go through the exact same setup process as previously, except that we're going to need to run docker container ls to find the name of the database container for the database host. It's likely wiki database 1 with underscores between wiki and database and 1. You're going to have to download localsettings.php again, but this time you'll place it in the same host machine directory as wiki.yaml. Alright, so we're back to wiki.yaml, and we're going to make a couple of edits. We're going to tell it where it can find its localsettings.php file. Now, after we save, when Docker Compose launches the next time, it's going to import the localsettings.php file into the directory associated with our persistent volume. So, okay, let's move over to our terminal, and let's go ahead and end the process in our terminal tab by pushing Control-C. All right, everything's down. Now, we'll clean up our terminal a little bit, and we're going to launch things again. Docker compose. It's going to take us a moment to get everything started once more. And when we navigate to localhost 8000, all right, we have our main page. Everything is configured. We have a running multi-container deployment again, this time with much less grunt work in the command line and an easy to share set of instructions in YAML. I hope this was helpful. In our next videos, we'll be moving on past Docker into Kubernetes as a container orchestration system. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care.